Hey everybody! So this week I'm doing a different type of countdown video where I'm taking a page out of What Culture's book. You know, there are multiple YouTube channels. I've actually done this before, sort of, instead of doing like a top 5, top 10, whatever, I'm doing like a more of an oddish type number, so it's going to be a top 9. But I'm also going to take it a step further and put them into like 3 different groups, so it'll be like, top 3 Nintendo, then top 3 Sony, and top 3 Microsoft. So, and another thing is, these are IPs that have been, well, we haven't seen a new game from in over a decade, but what I mean by this is, well, Sony and Microsoft putting out their new systems recently, which are impossible to find. I'm not in any particular hurry to get them anyway. Then the Switch is almost 4 years old. And there's rumors of a new one coming out, like a more powerful one or whatever. We'll have to wait and see what happens. There's been rumors of like names. One that's been floating around a bit is called the Super Switch, which a little unoriginal, but it has kind of a nice ring to it. So anyway, well, let's just get right into it. The countdowns. I'm gonna go by the order of that they entered the console market. So it'll be top 3 Nintendo, then top 3 Sony, then top 3 Microsoft. So for Nintendo, number 3, F-Zero. I'm sure a lot of you saw this one coming. It's what was it, 2005 that we saw the last F-Zero game? Like I said, I'm focusing more on franchises that we haven't heard from in at least a decade or so, maybe a little less, maybe more. Anyway, but I always love the F-Zero games because when it comes to racers, I'm not a huge fan of the traditional type of stuff like, Forza and Gran Turismo, Cruis'n World. I mean, I'll play them, but I'm not really a fan. I like the more kind of gimmicky stuff like Mario Kart and stuff, and then F-Zero is somewhat of a traditional racer, but it's more like futuristic and sci-fi, and, I've always been a huge sci-fi fan. It's part of the reason I like them so much. You have like humans and aliens and robots, cyborgs, all these different crazy characters and stuff, and it's just, the games are just so much fun. The music is absolutely amazing. And if you look at me or whoever, Mortal Kombat, excuse me. The initials the same, Mortal Kombat, Mario Kart. Anyway, they both start with MK. Anyway, Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you look at the Big Blue or Mute City stages, it's like, oh my god, they look amazing. Like, I mean, I'm not really a graphics hound, but just damn, like, those games look awesome. Those levels look awesome on the Switch, or, well, same with the Wii U, but the Wii U's dead, but, it's just, every time I see that, and it's like, how great would an F-Zero game be on the Switch? I mean, a new one, not like the one from, like, the original for the Super Nintendo. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's still a great game, but, but to see, like, a new one come to the Switch with these enhanced graphics and, like, music and new character stuff, just, So number 2 is Kid Icarus. Now, Kid Icarus is, well, the Kid Icarus games, there's been a few of them, like, here and there, like, there was some for the Game Boy series and stuff. The only ones I've played are this, and the one for the NES. But this, the NES was more like a platformer RPG type of thing, or like a old school NES type platformer. Like, this one is more also like a platformer, but this is, I haven't played it in years, but it's such an amazing game. The only thing is the controls are kind of weird because you have to use like the stylus to turn pit and stuff. It's kind of weird, but absolutely amazing game. Like, great music, all kind of variety of weapons, great characters, and just overall an awesome game. And I always liked Greek mythology too. One of my favorite movies, some of my favorite movies growing up in the 90s were like Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans. I remember watching like the live action Hercules and Xena TV shows. The 90s. But anyway, I always liked that Greek mythology stuff. And like I said, this is just such a great, and an idea I have, like, not that Nintendo's going to listen to me or not, but if we see more from these games in the future, it would be amazing? An open world Kid Icarus game. Something like Breath of the Wild, but it's like, Kid Icarus with Pit and like, all the Greek mythology and stuff. Something like, like, what the hell do they call it? God of War or something, maybe. The number one, I don't actually own any of these games, but it's something I've been wanting to get into. Unfortunately, now the games are, like for DS and Game Gear are expensive, but and that's Custom Robo, which, like I said, I don't have a huge knowledge of these games, but it's something I really want to look into. It's a game series that I'd love to try out. Basically, from what I recall correctly, it's like you make robots and like go into like dual arenas or something like that. And like I said, sorry, I don't have a huge knowledge of the series, but yeah, I feel like, and I kick myself for never getting into that because I feel like it's a series I would love. But yeah, it's another good example of a series that Nintendo could bring back. So now let's move on to Sony. So Sony's top three, number 3, Jumping Flash, which the first one I'm pretty sure was a launch title for the PS1. Yeah, the rendered expensive. The second one I think you can still find for a pretty decent price. This one I got like 6 or 7 years ago, so I don't know if the price is inflated by now. I haven't checked, but even though this game hasn't really aged well, like graphics-wise, it's still a very fun game. It's a platformer first-person shooter. You play as this robotic rabbit, and you just go around trying to collect save these little imp-like guys, and just blasting through enemies, getting all these crazy power-up stuff. Awesome soundtrack. Like I said, hasn't really aged well, but it's still fun to play. At least graphics-wise, it hasn't really aged well. Obviously, the controls aren't mind-blowing or anything, but the other thing is that, we've seen a lot of these, like, retro platforms. That's why I think maybe this could have a chance, maybe, with all these, like, retro platformers we've seen come back recently, like we saw Mega Man 11. There was 2 new PUBG games. There's a new Earthworm Jim game coming out. It's all these platformers that most of which died in the 90s. All of a sudden, here they come. They're coming back. So, Sony, why not? Or I'm pretty sure they developed this game, but why not bring this guy back? I'm sure not a lot of people, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love it. So, number 2 is the Twisted Metal series, which never owned a PS3 or PS4, to be honest. That's a whole other story, but I always loved the Twisted Metal games. Specifically, the second one is probably going to be my favorite. I mean, a lot of them are great, but, obviously, these games were originally made by Single Track. They made the first 2 along with some other PS1 exclusives like Critical Depth, the Jet Moto games, and, the hell was the other one? Warhawk. And eventually, I think they kind of branched off from Sony, and, but Sony still owned the rights to Twisted Metal, so I think it was 989 Studios, I believe, who made the 3rd and 4th one. Third one, it sucked. It had its moments, a few little good things here and there, but it was awful. And the 4th one, better, but not by a whole lot. And then, eventually, I think it was the main guy because Single Track went out of business, and I think the main guy formed Incog Inc., and they made, Twisted Metal Black, and Twisted Metal Small Brawl, and, all the other ones and stuff, so... But yeah, it's, there was one for, the PS3, there was one on the PSP and stuff, and, I think we're overdue for a new Twisted Metal game, because a lot of people, well, especially if you're, my age, or older, or younger, whatever, around my age demographic, so to speak, a lot of, people love these games, they're just so much fun to play, especially with friends. It would be nice to see a new one. Or just the series to come back, Now, the number 1, kind of a stretch, but the Suikoden series. Now, here's the thing. For starters, these games were made by Konami, which, well, Konami is a shell of what they once were, and now there's, rumors that they're maybe stopping development completely. Like I said, it's just rumors, they're, I don't know. I'm not going to get into all that, but, yeah, Konami is just not what they once were, so that's why I said this is kind of a stretch, but this was such an amazing JRPG series, and the reason I mentioned these is because they were always exclusive to the Sony systems. There was the first 2 were for the PS1, and then 3, 4, and 5 were for the PS2. I think there was one for the PSP, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there was others that were exclusive to Japan or something. I don't know, but if Konami could just... I mean, that's something with Konami, like I said, the rumors going on, stories going around about them. It's like they really just need to sell their IPs to different companies and stuff. And it would be like, maybe if like maybe not Sony, well, maybe Sony, maybe like another developer could buy the rights to the Suikoden series and like bring it back. But I don't know. Like maybe they wouldn't be as good, but who knows? But if they did, whether they'd be exclusive to the PS5, whatever or whatever, that's another story. But whatever. So moving on to Xbox or Microsoft. Now the thing is, I know these games are backwards compatible, which is nice for like people who may not own their own old systems, or because if they like trade it in, like sometimes people will trade in their old systems for the new ones, but they'll keep the games, or it's like people who just like never played them, like whether it was before their time or they just like skipped over them or something, or they just want to go back and play them, whatever the case may be. Like I know these games are backwards compatible, but what I'm talking about is bringing the series back, like making new games, like backwards compatibility. That's fine and all, but maybe make some new ones. So number 3 is Fusion Frenzy, which there was only 2 of these games, one for the Xbox, one for the Xbox 360. But this is such a fun party game. It's like kind of like Mario Party, but it's like futuristic sci-fi type of thing. And it's so much fun to play with friends. The second one had like bad reviews and stuff, but I was like, what? I saw it at like GameStop for like $5 or something. I was like, I'll give it a shot. And it's actually a pretty fun game. I like it, but yeah, it's like I said, if you like Mario Party, you'd probably love Fusion Frenzy. So why not bring it back, Microsoft? The next one, going back, number 2, going back into the platformers, making a comeback. Blinks the Time Sweeper. This was dusty. Anyway, this was kind of like Microsoft's attempt at like, how it was like, Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic, Sony had Crash Bandicoot until he became multiplat, but this was Microsoft's attempt at a platformer character, and it's just such a fun game. There's 2 of them actually, I think, but you play as this cat named Blinks who manipulates time and space to like navigate through stages, like solve puzzles and defeat enemies, and it's such an underrated gem. Like you slow time down, you speed it up to like do all kinds of crazy things and stuff. And I love this game. It's a shame that it's like kind of overlooked. Like and I don't know. See why? I guess from what I understand, I don't think Microsoft renewed the license on this game, but somebody should bring it back. Why not Microsoft? Now, the last one, or number 1, I should say, Cameo. Probably one of the greatest games made by Rareware in the 2000s. This was, I'm pretty sure, a launch title for the 360. And again, it tends to be kind of overlooked, and I know Rare isn't as great as they once were. Like, although the new Battletoads game, it's good. Not great, but good. Like, I really enjoyed it. But I would love to see a sequel to this, or just like a continuation or something. But it's such an amazing and unique platformer. You play as the fairy elf girl called Cameo, who can turn into these different monsters, which you can actually see them on the pictures of them on there. Like you try these variety of monsters, which you unlock through the game. You battle like all these trolls, and it's like kind of somewhat of an open world environment. Like and then you just. Such an amazing game, and again, so overlooked. Like, and I would. It's funny. This was originally going to be for the GameCube, but that was when Rare and Nintendo had some like falling out and shit. Like, so then it was like it kind of just went on the back burner, and then eventually when they went to Microsoft, they decided to finish it. But again, it's such an amazing game. This is probably on my top 10 list of like greatest games of all time. This is like if you love like open world or like RPG platformer type stuff, this is a must-play game. But yeah, those are just the top 9 franchises that I would love to see, the big 3, if you will, bring back. So, is there any more that you guys would like to see come back? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.